Hey guys, I'm back with another video, and I am pretty excited. So with point 7 came the human overall improvements, and now on point 8 I have the configuration files set up how I want them. But along with that, I have taken your guys' feedback and I have rounded out some of the features that I did early on, and then also some of the things that I've been meaning to get to. And I now have a pretty awesome configuration system that I'm very happy with. I'm going to be hopefully in the future trying to hook this up to the actual in-game systems so that we can actually just select these things while we're playing. But for now, I have a solution that I'm going to be working on where basically you can take these files, make the modifications that you want, keep them separate from the actual mod itself. So as you update the mod, you can keep all of your settings if you have very specific types of playstyles that you want to hold on to. So one of the things I wanted to show was that I have had a really fun time finally dialing in some of the special infected our behavior trees. So this update is going to showcase some of the new behaviors that you should see from the different special infected. But basically, if you're playing the Ultimate Survivor version, the world is about to get really mean. So I hope you guys can give me your feedback and let me know how bad this is. But essentially, the idea here is that the world is no longer a safe thing to traverse, and that the enemies, including the special infected, will go out of their way to hunt you down, find you, and chase you down till they get what they want, which is you dead. And so I'm going to showcase some of this gameplay here for a little bit, and continue to work on this, continue to get feedback from you guys, and I look forward to our discussion. So I'm going to focus here on trying to survive. I've updated a lot of the... Oof, this isn't good. So I've updated our difficulties where you will now be able to take about 1 bite from the infected. You have a couple of seconds to press that E button, and they do a good amount of damage to your health. So you have to get them off of you as soon as possible. If you do not, you will die. Also, the overall damage to the player has been set up with the config files to where you can now set these values for yourselves. So if you want to go in and make the game a little bit easier, if it's too much, feel free to do that. But essentially the focus here is on being able to make this game very intense for the average player. For example, with this kind of setup, obviously this would not be super safe. I'm not currently getting these human AIs set up to where they're a little bit more intelligent, so obviously they're just kind of chilling here while the whole map's coming down on them. But the idea here is that you do need to try to move to safer ground. So if they can see you, if they can hear you, they are going to be relentless in trying to get to you until you find safer ground. So one of the things that I've also worked with, and I'm super excited to showcase, is the ability for the Banshees, Spitters, and Screamers to actually pursue you. So a couple of changes here. So basically a good summary for the Banshee is that the Banshee I wanted to turn into... Whoa, I just saw guys running off in the distance there. That was pretty creepy. You can see them. Oh, I guess that's where they're escaping. So with the Banshee, I wanted to focus her on being more like the I apologize. Basically, I wanted to make her more like the Hunter off of Left 4 Dead. So the idea is that I wanted her to use some code that they wrote that she didn't really utilize that much, which was her ability to go upwards. So now I've turned off a lot of this, like, I'm going to jump on biters' heads and just kind of hang back kind of thing. I've gotten rid of a lot of that code, and just made it to where her primary focus is getting above you and then attacking. So as soon as you start to spot her, she will head for the roofs. Ooh. She'll head for the roofs and immediately start trying to prowl on the player. So if you see her and she starts heading upwards, you might want to start leaving the area because she'll do everything she can to try to flank and get behind you and then jump on top of you while you're moving through the city. So as you're moving around, she will actively be trying to follow and get in front of you. Now it looks like there's actually a bit of a spawn issue here where it looks like this guy was able to spawn inside the city walls, which is pretty funny. Accurate for it being the PK area, but let's make sure that there's no other weird spawns out. Oh, messed up. Ours behind the back and everything. So I've actually not tried to get away from the incoming horde at this location. So I've mainly been working with the church area. So you can see here that the looks like some of the distance equations. There we go. So once we go far enough in and for a long enough time, it does end that chase. The idea here is that it will continue to bring down the map on top of you, and so you actually do have to get out of the area for that to be successful. So let me see if I can show you kind of what environment you're looking at here. So I found some additional spawn code earlier on that led me to some fun solutions with how these AI are being populated down onto the map. A lot of this is based on like a resolution spawn map that they have, and essentially in some of the areas the resolution was turned down, and this made it very difficult to get the higher densities in certain areas. I've improved the resolution on some of those areas to try to help with that. And the idea behind that is like let's try to see if we can get certain areas well populated with this information. So here we have a screamer who she's now alerted. You can see here our spitter is actually very active now. So our spitters are not the passive let's shoot from afar anymore. Our screamers are no longer just going to stand there and scream. They're actually going to chase you down and follow you. But my spitter variant is actually the one that I'm going to try to see if I can stay alive long enough to focus on. Because he's basically at all times trying to get within range to fire at you. And so this actually makes for a much more fun special infected, because I found that he was kind of annoying to where he would just kind of look at you and he would shoot some and he would just kind of stand there. So it was very easy to just outdistance, outpace, and then once you were far enough away, he wouldn't challenge you anymore. Well, I've tried to work on some of this to where he's no longer going to just sit there and stare at you. He's actively going to chase you throughout the map. So let's see if we can get his attention again. Well, that was not as easy as I was hoping there. Hang on one second. There's several down there, so let me see if I can get their attention. There we go. So they're going to run after you, they're going to shoot at you, they're going to vomit at you, they're going to push you, and so they're going to chase you down. My original goal was to try to do this with the screamers, to where the screamers were actively trying to push you off the roofs kind of thing. And I have that pretty close where the screamers are now more active. They will follow you around the map, but they're basically following you around the map to just keep screaming. So you can see they're climbing the walls now, so they're actually moving around the map, trying to keep you within sight. And so I'm hoping this will make for a more interesting special infected, because before they were just kind of hanging out. I've also made some modifications here that I can't tell if I've actually broken the spawning of Banshees and that kind of thing, but I was just talking with the team, or the guys on the Discord, and talking about how I'm actively looking for the code that is causing the sound effects to play when special infected are in the area. This can get really overwhelming, especially when you have the HUD system set up to where you're not able to actually see the things spawning onto the map. And as you can see, as I'm kind of running around, it's no longer showing those locations. And so my guess here is, well, it is showing the base locations, but it's no longer showing up, and there's the ding. So that didn't actually work. So I just heard the ding, so let's follow that down and see if we can find a Banshee so you can see some of the changes there. So I don't like my odds there, but let's see if we can head this way. Oh no, I didn't think about the stamina issue here. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's not good. So one of the focuses on this update were to try to make the most of these things configurable for the player. So I know I've been making some changes over time and trying to get the game how I wanted it. But a lot of the feedback that you guys have been giving are things that would be easily modifiable for the player, and something that I've tried to make accessible for you guys so that you're actually able to go in here and fine-tune these settings. And so I'll be pulling up that document here in a second, but I am going to try to see if I can live long enough to get us over to a Banshee and also show you the updated Goon as well. So he's probably my favorite. I wanted to try to take the concept of the Goon and make him a little bit more deadly and dangerous to the player. They really didn't make this easy to traverse here. Let me see if I can. And I'm going to keep working on this, on that annoying ding, because I don't think I'll be able to actually get up this. I'm playing with a very low tier player so that I can make sure that this is balanced out enough to where I could survive this as a super low level, because I wouldn't want to make the game. Oh, speaking of which, okay. Where did she go? Oh, shoot. Where did she go? I think she's down. No, that's the spitters. I'm not sure where she went. And I actually haven't tried to encounter her at an area like this where she's not actually able to get up above me very easily. Another thing I disabled was her sparkles. So you can see there the howlers are now climbing up the walls and actively hunting for the player. To try to make those guys a little bit more exciting. So they're going inside for the night, it looks like. Yeah, 7:30. So I've now used up my night. So I apologize. I don't think I'm gonna be able to show that that Banshee attack. And it's interesting, only a couple of them actually ran away here. Let's see. So I'm gonna head over to where we can see a Goon, and then I can move over to the actual configuration files. For the actual video that I record for the release, I'm going to try to show each one of these special infected before releasing that, but this is kind of a sneak preview of some of the things that I've been working on. So, and it's actually been a little while since I've tested staying awake this long until night has now ended, so I'm really curious to see. These guys should all start running or dying. That's interesting. So I guess where it spawns so many of them, they only have so many run, flee codes active at one time. It is pretty interesting with the whole pushing the spawn system to its limits like this, and then having this system be able to comply or keep up with that. We're essentially going from like a total of 6 screamers in any given area to easily 50 or more screamers in any given area. So that's going to be a continuing fun thing to watch. Another thing that's been turned off is the auto aim. So auto aim is removed, guys. So no more little white dot. You will actually have to throw your spears, and I've actually been able to update the hit boxes pretty good. So let me see if I can give a good example of a miss. Alright. So before it had kind of this aim assistance, let me go right by his head here. I got the one behind him. It's pretty epic, but at the same time, not quite what I was trying to showcase. But the hitboxes, like I said, have been reduced to try to allow you to actually miss and have to work harder to actually hit your targets. I've always been super confused why they decided to do the aim assist. It must be a very specific console. Players were not able to use their aim system very well, so they decided to do that system, which is interesting. Another thing that I've overhauled are the explosions, and I've also tried to make that part of the actual configuration files. So as you're going through my configuration files, make sure to check out the new explosives section, and so you can kind of see all the different options that you have there for updating those systems and making those better. So let's see here. Oh, I guess they knocked it out of my hands here. So you can see there, it went right past him, embedded in the ground there, but completely missed him. Sword past his head, so to speak. And then let's show off some of the new explosive systems. So the explosive range and the physics systems have been updated to where you should start to get more realistic explosion systems. I've also increased the distance at which these different explosive types will be heard. So larger explosions will actually be heard at a longer distance, that kind of thing. Versus some of the smaller explosions will have less of an impact. I've also updated a lot of the dismember logic to where you now have a much higher chance of decapitating and removing limbs without necessarily killing these enemies. I've also worked pretty hard to try to cut down on the amount of basically the difficulty systems have been completely overhauled to where now instead of dealing with these sponges that are constantly, coming after you, having weapon after weapon break, the new idea is to basically allow you to do a lot of damage, but at the cost of noise. So the longer you're in an area, the longer you have to worry that they can hear you, that you have to get out of that area within a certain time range. And if you stay in that area, then you're more likely to get overwhelmed. So that being said, you should be able to now take on a group, especially if you use systems like barrels and that kind of thing. You should be able to actively take out larger groups, but you have to work for it. So the compromise here is that melee weapons are better, that your blunt weapons actually do more, Your blades do more. You can break arms, cut off legs, that kind of thing. I've improved the overall gore systems as well. So if they're bleeding from an arm and that kind of thing, the arm will stay longer, the blood will stay longer, and also if you take off like an arm or a leg, they'll actually also continue to bleed from that area for longer. So you can actively take on these groups, but like I said, long gone are the days of just standing there, taking out enemies while barely having to work for it. You will have to actively move and keep moving. So let's look at our new Goon. So I had a lot of fun messing with our Goon here and his animations to get him much scarier. So he reminds me more of the tank off of Left 4 Dead. He will come after you. He is relentless. He is a freaking tank. And one of the updates I'm going to be doing on him here in a little bit is to make him shove other zombies out of the way as he's running there. As you can see, he still gets hung up, but no longer do you have a coon that's just kind of hobbling along. You need to get out of there as fast as possible because, that just scares the hell out of me. But I love it. So I'm currently working on making these guys climb, making these guys more intelligent. Right now he's basically running to different locations. I've turned down his cooldown, so he's also able to attack more, and so he will actively be running after you, and then also trying to swing and damage you pretty much always. So he's kind of a relentless enemy until you finally take him down. And so the idea here is that if you're a lower level, get the hell out of there, because you're not taking out this guy anytime soon. So with that, with point 7, I've also had a chance to look at the human AI systems. So with the human AI systems, I've also had the ability to make them a little bit more aggressive. You guys gave some feedback on things like the spawn system spawning multiple times. I completely heard. And so I've worked on trying to reduce that bug, but please keep me posted on bugs that you're encountering during gameplay, and I'll try to improve those as we go. The interiors are now more likely to spawn special infected, so I also upped the resolution of the interior sections, and so those interiors should now be more inhabited by the enemies, especially during the daytime. And so you're more likely to encounter special infected inside of these interiors, and also then have to flee the area because you can get goons spawning in here as well. So that's a fun combination of now with his new intense running and attacking system is run up against him in a closed corridor confined space and enjoy. I do what I can for you guys. So with that, I also wanted to showcase, so currently, watch my health bar here in the top left. Basically, the enemies will do a lot more damage to you if you are on the ground and you start getting attacked and swarmed. You need to start moving. You need to try to keep away from them grabbing you. If they grab onto you, like I said, you pretty much have one bite takes down 70% of your health. I've set this up again in a configuration file, so if you need to be able to, if you want to make this 10%, you want to make this 100%, that's your call, but you can set that up now to where the biters are now a threat. So the idea here is that you're a runner, you need to run, and if you get swarmed, if you get caught up with too many enemies around, then it is more likely now that you will get knocked off your feet, that you will get hit by spitters, that you will get bitten, and if you do get bitten, then keep running and don't stop running. So let me see if I can, one last chance, let's see if we can find a Banshee really quick. Again, it's probably my favorite AI out of all of them now. The Spitter is pretty, I will say that I do enjoy the Spitter following you now, especially over the rooftops, because basically they get set up on these rooftops shooting at you. It's a lot of fun to see what all they try to do from higher elevation, because before we were just kind of dealing with them on the ground. Now they'll spawn on the roofs, and they'll also go out of their way to climb up, and that just completely changes the game as far as having to deal with these special infected at night. The Ragdoll systems for the kick continue to be something that basically I heard back early on the physics system that a couple of things were breaking due to the original Ragdoll system that I was looking at. So currently the way that system is set up is that you have basically a very special window while they're climbing to kick them off the roofs. If you don't get them in during this window, it will interrupt them. So it'll kick them back, it'll knock them back, but it won't ragdoll them off the roof. Right now I consider that kind of a bonus because if you go through here and you just start kicking these guys and they crumple to ragdoll, those systems are not very elegant right now. Hopefully they'll continue to update those systems as we go, but right now those systems are kind of simple, and so because of that it will be easier right now to utilize that as an asset of basically saying like, okay, I don't want to make the player too overpowered, so I interrupt them until I can get them off of a roof, and then once I get them off of a roof, okay, now they'll fall to their deaths kind of thing. But with the ragdoll system just always being on when you kick, you basically can just go to a rooftop and knock all these guys off a roof, no problem. And what's the fun in that? So maybe a lot of fun for you guys that you guys just want to slaughter lots of zombies, but for the difficulty, that made it a little bit too easy in my book. So I was going to get a chance for these Banshees to spawn in. We might have to actually kill this guy because he's actually doing a good amount of damage here. As they should. There's one. Perfect. Now if I can get down and see her. So like I said, the spark trails are now gone. So she will no longer leave a trail anymore. She'll just actively be hunting you. And so you have to watch out for her. I'm going to head down and let's upset her. So she did her first attack, and there she goes. She's heading up to the roof. She's jumping after me, and she got me. So pretty much, she will attack, and then she'll retreat. She'll head to the rooftops, and then follow you along the rooftops and continue to attack. So you pretty much have to, you can use things like spears. So I've actually had a good amount of fun now that the auto aim is off, seeing what you could interrupt in the system by throwing spears. They're a lot more fun now, in my opinion, now that they're not kind of like cheating. And so the idea here is that if they are attacking you on the roofs, you could try to go grab a spear, and then when she jumps down at you, either use your bow and arrow or spear to try to take her out while she's incoming and interrupt that special attack. So let me see if I can do this one more time and get a little bit more interesting information captured here. I am getting ready to release this mod here shortly, but I wanted to do some quick testing and also get some developer thoughts out there before I do a more summarized video. But this latest release has just been a ton of updates, and I'm super excited to hear your guys' feedback. I definitely feel like I got in more content this time because it was a lot easier to pull off now that I know where so many things are located. I've had a very long list of things that I wanted to do that I've been preoccupied trying to get other systems working, that now we're starting to slow down a little bit. We're starting to get into the part where we're refining things like trying to get rid of these broken howlers on the rooftops are still, oh crap, that's volatile, is still a priority. I've also tried to overhaul the stealth system in the game. So I think you guys reported a lot of issues with the stealth system, and so I think this system's a little bit better now. But please keep me posted. Please give me your feedback and let me know. Okay, that's not gonna work. I need to get further away. So please let me know if these systems are working or not working. I think a lot of these come down to different variations of play styles, and also different players having different experiences based on this random spawn system. And so I am looking forward to hearing your guys' feedback and seeing what you guys are running into. But it's really hard to test for all use cases. Especially now that I've made the configuration files, because it'll be more likely that everybody will be using a different version. But kind of the hope here is that people will start uploading their actual configuration files. If they find a playstyle that they enjoy the most, you can share that on the Discord. You can share that on the Nexus kind of thing. But that way more people can play your play style. So if you have friends that you want to play co-op with, you guys go and set up some of those settings, and then you guys create your own version of intensity for the game to basically maximize playability. So I want everybody to be able to go and play this game without getting frustrated, without quitting, but at the same time, this game is, post-apocalyptic. It can absolutely be super intense without ruining the game. And it's good to see so much progression come along later on. I'm glad I was able to get so much feedback and hear from you guys. I really appreciated all of that. So with that, I think I'm going to move over to the actual configuration file, because now that this chase has started, I pretty much have to fall back to an actual base at this point. I would highly recommend playing this game with a simplified HUD. So I'm working on my own version of that now. That will make it more specific to the needs of I Am Legion. One of the things that I was trying to look for was removing that that dinging sound, as I mentioned before, but it looks like that's going to be an ongoing thing. So I'll continue to look for that. But let me switch over to the configuration file really quickly and just see if I can summarize this quickly for you guys. So basically inside of our I Am Legion folder, basically this is not how it'll look for you guys, but essentially the idea is that I'm going to set this up to where the configuration file is this I Am Legion settings AIL_settings MTH. So this is a data file type that they use for the game engine. And I found this is easier to sync up across the system, but essentially the idea here is that if we open this up in a text editor, you'll see that inside this file there is a very long list of adjustments that you can make to the game. So I was not able to get away with a ton of formatting, essentially because of this config file is loaded into the system, and so because of that, one wrong move will actually just brick the whole system. So because of that, it has to keep a very rough style. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go and actually create a pairing document so that you can utilize the document along with this to read along with what these different things do. So I'm still continuing to look at each one of these settings and refine some of these things as well. I'm trying not to release the game with any errors or without anything breaking, but at the same time, if everybody goes and creates custom configs, it's going to be difficult to update in the future without them having to start over, kind of thing. If they know how to compare these files, then that's awesome, because that'll help expedite the process of updating in the future. So if I update these, they can see what settings they have versus my new settings, and they can decide between those kind of things. WinMerge should also work with this file. So if you use something like WinMerge, you should be able to decide line by line which one you want to keep and which one you want to discard. So because of that, it'll be a little bit easier to go through and say, like, okay, he updated the stamina regenerates, I'm going to keep my settings versus his settings, that kind of thing. So I'm going to try to release more information in the final video. I do need to jump off, but I want to just kind of quickly summarize some of the things I've been working on and the intensity of the game. I'm really excited to hear your guys' feedback and look forward to discussing here soon. So the current goal is that I'm going to try to release this update here tonight. That being said, I want to make sure that I also have most of these configurations set up and make sure that everything is working as expected, because once I start releasing, as I said before, it's going to be more difficult to update that information past that point if people go in and start making their own edits. So I don't want to break anybody's settings or game at that point, but that might have to happen for the first little bit. But essentially the quick summary of this is that you have different sections that cover basic gameplay. Underneath the gameplay settings, you have things like slow-mo, x-ray, zip lines, looting, these different categories that I've been trying to set up to where you can basically go in here and say like, okay, I want to modify the player settings, I want to go down underneath the running settings. You can look at my setting name. For the most part, I've tried to make these names as like blatantly obvious as possible. So here you have I Am Legion. Each one of my configs is set up with this AIAL tags so that you can find out where those are located in the game. So if you use something like your Visual Studio or you use something like Sublime, you should be able to open my mod files and then type in this AIL underscore and hit find. And now you'll start to see my modifications throughout the game. So some of that will not always work for things like special, that one, it won't work up perfectly there. But for the most part, you should be able to get it. You can even add things like little, if we put this in quotations and then search, that'll probably come out a little bit easier. You can even see the files where I've imported it. So pretty much for this file to work, you have to import this file into each one of these files. So the safer way to do it is probably just say find in files and then search where I'm importing that file, and it should list every file that's being done. And so from there you should be able to go through and actually say like, okay, I want to go in and change this value. I want this value to be based on another mod, whatever that may be. You can go in there and replace those files. But just know that either you got to hook these back up, or you have to make sure that these don't have dependencies. So it will get a little bit trickier, but this is meant to be an overhaul, so it's meant to balance out the entire system. And so because of that, that's kind of the goal and the aim here. And so I'm super excited to hear you guys' feedback and hear what other settings that you guys want to be able to change. Things like, for example, difficulty, infected difficulty. Here you can say like, okay, if they take a swipe at the player, how much damage is done, anywhere from 4 to 40%. You can change that to 4 to 100. You can change the bite, the grab bite to 0%, whatever suits your play style. But this should give everybody a leg up on trying to be able to go through here and say, okay, this is how I want my difficulty scaling, this is how I want my difficulty scaling, this is how I want my overall systems to be. I've tried to include a lot of things like the bow and arrow. I know that a lot of people have mentioned that they don't like some of the settings for certain weapons, so I've tried to include that in here to make that a little bit more interesting. Things like the auto aim are all in here, so you can set those to true, and that will actually turn back on auto aim in the game. All those systems I'm trying to flush out as much as possible, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I'm also trying to tie that into the actual in-game settings so that you can also enjoy those in-game settings without having to exit and make modifications at this level. But I did notice one note on that front is that even the difficulty settings, I noticed that they're not doing, at least I could be wrong here, but even from the difficulty settings, it looked like you set those at the start and then start the playthrough. And so because of that, that's very different than dynamically loading values that change actively throughout the gameplay. So I'll have to confirm that and make sure that you can't change the difficulty in game, but I'm still trying to learn how they're doing their difficulty settings, how they're doing their value settings, and syncing everything up throughout the game. So this will be kind of an ongoing thing, but I really look forward to you guys' feedback. I appreciate everybody's support, and thank you so much. I look forward to releasing this tonight. If I don't make it tonight, it will come out tomorrow morning. So thank you guys.